When it comes to living your most fit and your most healthy life, there are so many different options out there for you to make sure that you can live the most pain-free life possible. Well, I'm excited to sit down today with my good friend, Dr. Casey, as we dive in to his business, Upper Cervical, here in Sioux Falls, and talk with you about what he does, why he does it, and how it could help you possibly overcome some different stressors or injuries that you might have in your life to make sure that you are living your best life possible. Let's dive in to today's episode. All right, here is Dr. Casey. Let's dive into all things chiropractic and all things that you probably wouldn't really think of when you just think of chiropractic.
Yeah.
Dr. Casey, welcome to the show.
Hey, good to be here. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, this is awesome. When I first met you, I don't know if I would say that I'm average when it comes to my knowledge on chiropractic, or if I'm less than average or more. I don't know what the general public knows about chiropractic. But when I met you, to me, what comes to mind when I think chiropractor, I think of twist, crack, pop.
Yeah.
Is that pretty normal?
It's that's common.
Okay.
That's what most people think. And again, in the days of social media nowadays, it's like you see these videos with this strap around somebody's head and just give it. Like just yank as hard as you can.
Yeah.
And then they got these microphones right by the person and they're
Sure. So when you're in the office, if in a traditional chiropractic, can you hear that?
You can hear it. You can definitely, the people in the room can hear it. It's not like you would catch it on video across the room.
Sure.
Or hear it from that, usually.
Okay.
Usually, yes.
Yeah. So obviously we're sitting here chatting. Whoever's listening or watching, they're like, what are they talking about?
Yeah.
And the reason that I wanted to kind of kick it off that way is because when I learned about what you do with chiropractic and how it's called Upper Cervical. So you own a business here in town.
Yep.
Why don't you quickly just explain to anyone watching, listening, like what is the business that you own? So let them know where it started, how you started, and what it is. So go ahead.
It's been a journey, and we've been here in town for 12 years and started Upper Cervical of Sioux Falls. We started as a franchise, and that's a whole nother story, but we were a franchise for 3 years, started at, it was 69th in Minnesota, here in town. And then, just 5 years ago, moved to a new building.
That's been 5 years now.
It's crazy, dude.
Like that when we had your grand opening and there was a tent in the back and that was wow.
Time flies.
That's wild.
Time flies. So we've been at that location and now we're at 57th and Sycamore.
Okay.
Over by the Barrel House that's and as we're going to talk about, we do something a little bit different.
Sure.
But it's called Upper Cervical of Sioux Falls, and
Sure. Very cool. And so Upper Cervical of Sioux Falls, obviously it's a chiropractic clinic.
Mm-hmm.
Upper Cervical is would I be saying this correctly if I said Upper Cervical is an extension of chiropractic?
Correct. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So I went to general chiropractic school.
Okay.
Know all that stuff. On top of and through chiropractic school, there was other classes on top of that I had to take to learn more specifically the upper cervical spine, because it's a tough thing in chiropractic world. Like other chiropractors adjust the whole spine and the upper neck and just not as specifically as what we take a look at.
Okay.
And
so when you say upper cervical, the spine is it broken into three different parts? So explain the three parts of the spine, if you will.
So cervical spine is kind of neck down to shoulders.
Okay.
thoracic spine is shoulders down to mid back.
Okay.
And then we have our lumbar spine, which is our lower back.
Okay. Is
So
that
yeah.
all the way to your tailbone?
No,
No.
There's sacrum at the bottom
Okay.
of the lumbar spine, and,
Okay.
and then there's coccyx, or
Okay.
kind of what you'd call
Sure.
a tailbone.
Got
Yep.
you. Okay. So the lumbar, the thoracic,
Yep.
and then the cervical.
Yep.
So when we say upper cervical, we're taking then the cervical, which is the
Yes.
upper part. The cervical is the upper 1/3 of the spine.
Yep.
And then when you say upper cervical, you're talking about even the top
Correct.
of that even.
Correct. Yeah.
So that is your specific niche.
It's funny, and there's a whole story behind this. When chiropractic started, this is the way it really started back in the 1930s,
Yeah.
40s, with a focus on the upper cervical spine.
Okay.
And the philosophy behind it, these guys at that time, they wanted to find the cause of dis-ease. And I'll get a little philosophical on you. Not just disease, but the precursor, dis-ease, the lack of ease, the lack of communication in the body. And what they found at that point was that stems back to the nervous system.
Sure. So obviously there has to be a way that this kind of all breaks down. And
Yeah.
the way this breaks down is we have our brain,
Yep.
which is on the top of our head.
Yep.
And that brain controls and sends micro neurons to our entire body.
Dude, it's wild.
Follows through the spine.
Yep.
Right?
Yep. So
Okay.
the spine houses and protects the nervous system.
Okay.
So again, take a step back: nervous system, brain stem, spinal cord, and then and that's your central nervous system. And then
Yeah.
the peripheral nervous system is the nerves that come out to your arms, your legs, the internal organs,
Okay.
off the spinal cord. But the spine itself houses the spinal cord and really protects it.
Sure.
Yep.
So how would a person know if they should visit an upper cervical type of
Yep.
establishment like yours? Like what type of feelings, symptoms,
Yeah.
things does a person maybe feel where like, I should maybe talk with this guy?
Yeah. And that's a tough differentiation between general chiropractic and upper cervical world. And I'll maybe preface that by saying why I got into it.
Sure.
I got into upper cervical because I wanted to get to the cause of the problem. Again, in medical world and all of these thought processes, like we want to get to the cause of the cause.
Yeah.
And so that's the reason that I got into upper cervical. I didn't want to be somebody's low back aspirin, so to speak.
Sure.
Or, where you get twisted and popped, or plenty of people do that on their own.
Guilty.
But it feels good.
Yeah.
You're relieving tension, you're relieving pressure, but it never gets to the cause of the problem. And then for many people, they're constantly doing that because they constantly need that relief, and the body really never gets to the cause of that problem. So all that to say, most people need, I think, upper cervical, and obviously I'm biased, but there certainly is a place for general chiropractic. But some of the things that maybe you would feel that would tell you that, most of the people that we deal with are pain related.
Sure.
And
is it like neck pain or sometimes like just anywhere in the body pain? Like,
yes. Here's the tough thing is, especially within the upper cervical, like when they do a brain surgery, they don't deaden the brain. Like
Sure.
you don't have to. There's no sensory fibers on the brain. So they push here, your finger twitches or whatever.
Yeah.
And that's the same case at the upper neck, at the upper cervical spine. There's no sensory fibers. So when that thing shifts, many times you don't feel it.
Sure.
Until you're a year, 5 years, 10 years down the road. And now we have these other compensations down the spine starts to wear down, body can't adapt to problem anymore, and now we have issues.
Yeah. My wife went to you when I kind of first met you. We were talking, and you had mentioned something about like chronic migraines.
Mm-hmm.
And when I met my wife, chronic migraine, like when I heard you say that, like until I met my wife, I never even thought about that because I'd never dealt with it in my life. And there's so many of these symptoms where a lot of our people watching or listening, if it's not something that you deal with, you don't think about it. That's life. That's how we live life. If we're not personally affected by something, we don't think about it.
That's right.
But all of a sudden you said something about these chronic migraines. And I was like, Mel. Because the reason I thought of Mel is, well, number one, yes, she had them, but she was the type of person that literally has tried everything. Because if you're dealing with a migraine, like it literally puts you in bed with the lights off, and you're like not leaving the room for sometimes a couple days. Because you have this, migraine. And I remember at one time too, she even went and I don't know, she's seen somewhere, it's probably a TikTok video or something, but she's seen this thing. If you get this ear piercing in this certain part of your ear, it's supposed to relieve. And
it's called a Darth piercing.
Okay, she has it. Funny story about that. She doesn't know how to take it out. There's been
no, she's stuck with it.
I'm like, there's got to be a way to get this thing. She's like, what if I want to change the ear? I'm like, I don't know. Didn't you ask them when they put it in? But I think that most things in life definitely have a placebo effect. So I definitely think like when she got this piercing, she's like, I don't know, but I think it feels better. I don't know. But then sure enough, week goes by, migraine. And I'm like, listen, I don't know. I met this guy, and this was at the time now 7 years ago, because it was actually still when you were in your old clinic. So it was for sure 5 years ago. And I was like, hey, let's just have you go meet with them and take a look. And really, so for her, she went initially to see you because of a migraine. And so I feel that I've also heard that vertigo is something that, because also vertigo is one of those things where when you have it, like I'm going to try anything to figure out how to get it fixed. Like I've heard of people, and I don't even know what this actually is, but resetting their crystals and stuff and trying all these different things to fix the problems. And I mean, obviously for me, for sure, I don't work in your industry, but I wouldn't say that, hey, you have vertigo or you have migraines, you need to go see Casey and it's for sure fixed. I wouldn't say that.
No, I won't either.
Okay, but it's a possibility.
Correct.
Right? Okay.
And for most people, we talk about some of these common conditions that we work with. Migraines, vertigo is way up there. Balance issues outside of that. Trigeminal neuralgia. Like there's some uncommon conditions that there's really not any other answers for within the medical profession outside of just treating some of the symptoms. But we deal with a ton of different stuff, from neck pain to radicular pain or numbness and tingling out into your arms. So there's a lot of, but that's where we meet most people. And then like, and that's the point of this podcast is health and wellness. For me and my family, like we get checked and we're under care, not because we have XYZ symptom, but because we want our body to function the best that it can. So, it really just depends on what, and honestly, I leave that up to whoever comes into the office. That's up to them, what they want out of care. Some people just want to get rid of a symptom. Great. Some people want, after that, to stay in front of a symptom.
And the big thing is so 2 weeks ago, I had Nick Coulterman, who I know that you know as well, with Fit My Feet on the show, and we were talking about foot pain. And, my belief, and I believe you're similar, God did not create us to live painful lives.
No question.
He didn't create us to walk around with these symptoms that are debilitating, with these symptoms that cause us just miserable lives. And the unfortunate truth is that there's so many people that have a symptom, but they don't know where to go. And unfortunately, a lot of times you'll go to just a general doctor.
Yeah.
And nothing against that
Nope.
because we need that.
Correct.
But they are a general doctor and they're not as specific.
Yeah.
And so therefore they're going to do all that they can.
Yeah.
But a lot of people, that's the end line. They went to the doctor's like, I don't know.
It's not broken.
Right.
It's not
Right.
surgical candidate.
It depends on the doctor and what relationships they have, because the truth is had I not met you,
Yeah.
I don't know if somehow I would have maybe heard, but Mel was searching for
Yeah.
online, migraine, this and that, and,
Yeah.
and ended up with a piercing.
Yeah. Right. Yes.
But then I met you, I created a relationship with you, and now when I do talk with people,
Yeah.
like I have you as a reference guide
Yeah.
because of that connection. But if that other doctor that maybe someone went and visited does not have that connection,
Yeah.
then that is the end line.
For sure.
And so I think that's just such a huge part about even this podcast, and my hopes with it is to be able to create more and more connections, right?
For sure.
So that way, if someone comes in contact with me and I can help them by referring them to you, or maybe someone listening to this show is like, oh, vertigo, oh, migraine, oh, whatever else, I might have heard.
Yep.
I'm gonna go get checked out.
Yep.
I think one thing that might hold people back too, just because it's the way life is like finances. They get scared of, like, I have this pain,
Right.
and I know I want to fix it, but what's it going to cost me?
Right.
Like
right.
financially,
Yep.
what's it going to cost me?
Yep.
And so what would you say to that? I guess, like, how, like, number one, like, is this, like, if I go visit Dr. Casey, am I thousands of dollars in the hole just to even come visit you? Or, like, how does that look?
It's tough because to weigh that out, certainly that's a concern. And so kind of process to get started in the office. For mostly everybody, I initially make a phone call to the person because I want to talk to them about what's going on, how long, all of that. Do a little phone consult. And then at that point, we lay out specifics of cost. I don't want anybody to get into a spot where they're not comfortable.
Yeah.
I don't send bills in the mail.
Yeah.
Like if there's a cost to something, they're going to know it before they get into it.
Yep.
And so I found most people appreciate that.
Yeah. And that's a big thing. You want to help them.
Yes.
Period.
Yeah. Bottom line. And honestly, you know my heart, knowing you long enough, and I know your heart with Fit Body. If we could do this and not charge anything, sign me up.
That's what we do.
Yep. Love it.
And I've heard from a mentor of mine many times, if you want to find, true success in life, figure out what you would do for free.
Yep.
And do that as your business.
Yep.
And I really do feel that both you and I, have found that.
Yep.
Because if I remember right, and correct me if I'm wrong, but you went to school for actually general chiropractic originally. And when you were in school is when you kind of got introduced to the upper cervical.
Yeah.
Is that correct?
My story is kind of crazy, even going back to, I was just telling somebody in the office this the other day, and I don't remember how it came up, but coming out of high school, like I didn't even want to go to college.
Yeah.
I grew up with just my mom and had some different living conditions growing up. She was working her tail off to try and make ends meet. Anyway, I was dating my wife at that point, and it was weird. Her dad kind of sat me down and was like, and it wasn't weird, but he was like, what's your plans? And I, at that point in your life, you're kind of short-sighted in some of the bigger overall picture. Yeah. And in athletic training world, I had to, it was going to be nights and weekends, and it was going to be when sporting events are not conducive to a family, in my opinion. Yeah. And he was like, have you thought about any other schooling? And I'm like, no, I didn't even think about this schooling. I didn't want to go. So anyway, long story short, I ended up applying to chiropractic school, got accepted, went to chiropractic school. And then, like you said, once I got there, I found out chiropractic, because I was like, chiropractic will work great with athletic training, and you being in my office, you know that we don't do a ton of athletic training or other therapies.
Yeah.
But that was my thought process, is it'll go great hand in hand. And then I found chiropractic was something totally different, something totally unique, and then found this upper cervical spine and all the things that set it apart. So it's really like, I feel like I just walk down the path and like there's 2 doors and 1 door opens and I walk through and like that's kind of been the story of my life.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's cool, and you're right. There's, when you walk into your office, it is very much treating, the patient that comes in, and you're right. It's not athletic training, in any sort. You have been doing this for how many years now? You said
coming up on 12. Yeah,
12 years. In 12 years, I'm sure you've got boatloads of different stories, success stories, and people. Yeah. And I'm kind of putting Dr. Casey on the spot here because I didn't ask you this before. But if you had to like pinpoint maybe 1 or 2 of the people in the last 12 years that you could highlight as success stories, maybe like what were the symptoms that they originally came in with? And obviously with all success stories, this is not saying that this success story is going to be this is going to be the same for you, but just it proves as like what it can do. Because I know for me, like with FitBody, when I think of some of the biggest success stories that we've had, like that's what drives me. Because there's days that are tough. There's days that business is hard. But the success stories of seeing how you can help people is what definitely drives me to keep going. So maybe what are 1 or 2 of the top success stories that kind of come to your mind of like just seeing that person live with less pain or even pain-free? What was their story?
Just like we talked about before, I mean, I've seen a ton of migraine cases. People who have been here, there, and everywhere trying to fix their migraines. And so there's a couple stories, and usually it's gals that get migraines, typically worse than men. But there's one gal that stands out, and I mean, just debilitating. Like couldn't run her family. Like kids are not being taken, not that they're not being taken care of, they're taken care of, but
you can't focus on it. Like all you're focusing on is how bad your head hurts. I didn't understand it until I had Mel with having migraines, and I get it. It debilitates. So I understand what you're saying.
It takes over your whole life. And then a lot of these people, and whether it's migraines or balance issues, like they have to make decisions based on, can I do this? Can I do this today? Do I feel like my body can handle this? And it's this little voice always in the back of their head, like, when's it coming? When's it? Because and sometimes there's warning signs with migraines, especially. A lot of balance issues that I've dealt with people, it's boom, and you're laying on the floor. Like you're done
on the ground.
Yes. And I've had people that can't drive, don't feel comfortable driving because of a balance issue, come into the office that are now driving. Some of the kids that I've seen.
So you do children too?
Yep.
Is there like at a certain age you then will see them, or like no? What's the youngest you've seen?
I mean, my kids, for example, right after they were born, they were checked, and all dependent on
like birth. In the hospital room. Like just gave birth. You're like, wait, before you give that child the mom, let me
for sure. I'm serious. Yeah.
Oh man,
because they have that little temperature gauge, and for kids, what we do, one of our analysis tools is just taking. It's called the Atlas fossa, so kind of right behind the ear, taking the temperature side to side. And it should be pretty close to the same.
Do you do that with your scanner gun, or do you have like a different? Like
in the hospital setting, just like the same temperature thing that they do on, you can do that behind the ear.
Okay, like a straight up put that on your head and check the temp. Okay,
but in the office, I have a special tool for that.
Okay, is that the same thing as the scanner that you run down their spine? That checks the temperature too. Okay,
so there's just a different way that we can use it.
Yeah.
So
okay, cool.
But no, my kids were checked like right after birth, And so again, it's all dependent on, I look at it from a wellness perspective, and I don't want to let any disease process grow in my body because it takes time. And behind chiropractic, there's 33 principles. The sixth principle is the principle of time. All of these processes, whether it's a health process or a disease process, it requires time. Yeah. And so like migraines like Mel, that doesn't just happen one day.
Yeah.
It builds to that point over usually years. Yeah. Months to years.
And I think that's a huge takeaway for anyone that's watching or listening to that, is that your health over time, whether you take care of yourself or you don't take care of yourself, over time, you're going to notice a difference. Yep. And so today, and this comes back to so much of your health and fitness journey, today, it might sound like a good idea to go eat that Big Mac and drink those drinks. Yep. Tomorrow, it might also sound like a good idea. But if you keep that lifestyle up, over time, you are just deteriorating your health.
No question.
And all you are doing is waiting for Father Time to catch up with you. Yep. And so with these issues in that upper cervical, over time, if you do have just a slight, I would assume, a slight imbalance or a slight difference from one side to the other, then over time, it's just sliding. Sliding. Yep. You know, I can almost relate that to my uncles are dentists. Yeah. And if you look at my canines, they're like, did you get them shaved down? Right. Like, no, but apparently I grind my teeth. Okay. Right. And when I was a child, I had normal looking canines. Yeah. Well, over years, I just ground these things down. I don't have a point anymore. Like, does he not have canines? And you'd never know.
You're not a carnivore anymore now, huh?
Right. No, not anymore. But this is over time. It's like all of a sudden one day the point was there and the next day it's gone. It's just small shavings every day. I never felt it.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Yeah. And that's any health process. I always say, like, it's not dumb luck who's 60, 70 years old and in the nursing home and who's out playing golf or playing pickleball or doing whatever they want to. Like, we work all of our life to retire. Yeah. And then if you're in bad health, like, because of the choices that you made, like it's tough, because I see that a lot with people that over time it just happens, and we can work our way out of that. I don't think it's ever too far gone. Mm-hmm. You know, whether it's eating, whether it's chiropractic care or upper cervical, whether it's the gym, like, there's always a starting point. But it's not dumb luck who gets to what place. There's good and bad. It comes back to our decisions, and you know, I always one of the common conversations that I have in my office is genetics. Yeah. And I despise genetics, because everything's it's just in my genes. It's the way I was built. It's very disempowering.
It's the way you were built until you make the decision to do something
different. Correct. And so I always like to talk about this newer study. It's called epigenetics, where genetics are not just the way it is. You can be more have a predisposition to something because of your genes, but it doesn't mean that it's going to be dominant or recessive. A lot of that, and what epigenetics says, is based on environmental factors. So you're not just stuck.
No, our bodies will adapt to what we put them through. Yep. And so, therefore, if you want a different outcome, if you want to change that genealogy of your family, guess what? It can start with you. Yeah. It can start today.
No question.
You know, I want to wrap this thing up, and we have talked about just, you know, all sorts of different things, upper cervical, just health, migraines, vertigo. Yep. But it does come down to everything on this show boils down to your health and your fitness journey. And one thing is, there's this like stereotype that a fit person looks a certain way. And maybe that's true. Fit people do have a certain look to them, but everybody has a fitness journey that they're on. You're either just working towards making it better or you're working towards not. So what would you say to someone about the importance of starting today? Like why should someone start focusing on their health today versus waiting? Like, what would be your advice?
I mean, there's just no better day.
Yeah.
Like what I would ask is almost the opposite. Why wait?
Yeah.
Why not today? I mean, why put that off another day just for some short-term, feel good?
Yeah.
You can start that journey right now.
Yeah.
And then you're one day closer to the goal. And the tough thing when it comes to health is there's no finish line.
Yeah.
There's no finish line when it comes to health. And so, and sometimes you can look at that as daunting.
Yeah.
But you can also look at that as that every day I get to take this opportunity to better myself.
Yeah.
And in whatever way, shape, or form, whether that's mentally, physically, spiritually.
Yeah.
Every day you can. Now, listen, you and me both know I've fallen off the wagon.
Yeah.
What do? You get back on.
You get back on.
And
when do you get back on?
As soon as possible.
Today.
As soon as you catch it. Like, don't wait. Get back on the wagon, and that's what leads you to retirement and where you can enjoy life and appreciate the choices that you've made, so that you can play with your grandkids and do all the things that you want to do.
That makes me think of, and I don't know if our audience or even if you've seen it, but there is this, over Christmas time, there was this ad of this older guy, and he was kind of lifting this weight, and you didn't know really why he was lifting it. It was very odd, and he struggled quite hard, and then he went to a little bit bigger of a weight, and he would lift it up kind of chest high, and then he would try to lift it kind of up just above his head a little bit, and he'd put it down, and you'd see him doing this, and then it finally got to this scene at the end of the commercial where the grandson ran into the house, and he was able to pick his grandson up and lift his grandson chest height, and then lift him up over his head while his grandson then put the star on the top of the tree.
Cool.
And to me, that's why we do this.
Yeah.
Because there is nothing worse than living life and not having your health.
Yep.
And so, that's why we get people, like Dr. Casey on here, because I don't know if it's for the person watching this or not. I don't know if Fit Body is for you or not, but the one person that it is for, the one person that it'll help, that's what it's for. Yep. And no matter whether Upper Cervical is for you or Fit Body is for you, what is for you is understanding that you can start today.
Yeah.
And that Dr. Casey, you said it right, that there is no end point.
Yeah.
This is your journey until death.
Yep.
And it is your job until death to live the healthiest possible.
Yep.
So, hey, I appreciate you taking time out of your life to just spend some time with us, talking about what you do, talking about why you do it. I love finding good people with good hearts that have a business that care more about the people than the profits.
Yeah.
Profits will come if you care about the people. And I've seen that firsthand in your business. And so I just want to personally say thank you for how you run your business, because that's awesome. Other than that, is there anything you'd like to leave our audience with?
Yeah, no, I just really appreciate the time and the message of this. If you want to reach out, there's plenty of ways to find us on all the social media sites or our website. If you have any questions, as you can tell, both of us are passionate about health and how you get there, things that you can do. So if you need a guide, that's what we're here for.
Yeah. Do you have like a general opt-in form where people can like opt in to ask questions?
Yes.
You do?
Yes,
So
that's
what
on
I'll
our
do,
website.
What I'll do is I'll actually grab that
Yep.
and I will drop that in the description of this show. So if you do want to get in touch with Dr. Casey, read the description link on this show. We'll have the link right here for you so you can just opt right in and ask some questions. And the biggest thing is like, hey, Dr. Casey wants to help.
Yep.
I want to help.
Yep.
We want to make sure that our audience, our viewers are living their most fit and healthy life.
Yep.
But hey, thank you guys for showing up. Thank you for taking time out of your day to spend it with us. It's been, 35, 40 minutes. We've hung out here. And I just hope you got some knowledge and some value from this, which I know that you did. Do us a favor. Go ahead and like, subscribe, and share this episode. And friends, we will catch you on the next episode of the Fit and Healthy Sioux Falls Show. Bye, guys.